What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Stocks by the Numbers. And today I just wanted to take a quick look at GameStop. I'm sure everybody's familiar with this, ticker symbol GME. It's been in the news, over the last year or two. A lot of people were talking about that massive short squeeze. Stock rallied from like lows of, $10, $12 and ran up to almost $500 a share. And, today we're seeing a pop of like 25% here. A lot of these news articles and whatnot are talking about, people online talking about another short squeeze, and that's why it's popping today, and it's going to make another run. And I just wanted to give my slant on this because, I remember back in the day, I also noticed that the short interest on the float was over 100%. And I remember that caught my eye too. And I just kind of like moved on, just honestly, because I thought it was like a glitch or something, that they were just showing us the wrong numbers. But basically what happened was, first of all, the float is the total number of shares outstanding, if people don't know that, But anyway, basically, the entire company was like shorted. And then what happened was all of these guys on Reddit and whatnot started buying up shares of the company, increasing the share price, and then you had all of these big boys on Wall Street step in, and they covered their shorts. And now you have like an immense amount of volume on a stock coming in, and like 90% of it were buys, and that's what propelled the stock up more and more and more. And obviously, if we shorted GameStop at, $17 and it was down at 10, and we're sitting here saying, wow, it was a great call, then all of a sudden you wake up the next day and it's $22. Then you're like, well, I don't know what happened. All right, let's keep an eye on it. And then the next day it was like 70, and then it was like 130 or whatever. It really started chunking up just in the next couple of days. So basically, everyone and their brother who was short on GameStop had to step in and start buying up these shares as soon as they can, and that's what jumped the stock up to, basically all-time highs of like $500 a share. But, I just want to remind people because, again, like I always try to bring to this channel, I try to bring you guys more long-term investments. I know, like, when I made the first video on, like, Verizon, we spoke about it right after they brought it down to new 52-week lows of, like, sub 45 a share. And even in the short term, I said that was an overreaction, and even if you want to step in and, a couple of weeks out and look for the trade back up to, like, $49, $50, it'd probably be, like, a decent, safe bet. And, looking at Verizon, obviously that was a decent call. Again, not patting myself on the back, but in the short term, stocks basically back up to $51 today. But, again, long-term buys and long-term investments, and we're looking at a company like GameStop. And, I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys that the gaming industry has become more digital and more digitized. And basically, you're able to, buy games, through your console, through your PC without getting the physical copy like we used to have to get back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Going over to the GameStops, the Best Buys, and actually buying the CDs or the cartridges to actually play the game. And now you have third-party gaming platforms like Steam, where they give you a trial run of the game when you buy it. So if we go on Steam right now and we just pick some random game, doesn't matter if it's $2 or $50. And if we buy a game, I think they give you up to like 2 hours of gameplay on the game before you can ask for a refund. So if we buy a game right now and we play for like 40 minutes, an hour, and we really don't like the game and we don't see ourselves like spending a lot of time in the game, you can get a refund back from Steam. And you can just get your money back, no questions asked. And you can move on and you can, buy a different title. So, being that we're kind of making this digital shift, like a brick and mortar business like GameStop, where you go in and buy games, it's just not adding up. And in my opinion, there's a reason why, like, the entire float was shorted. And there was a reason why every trader and every investor and every big boy on Wall Street stepped in, and they probably all had a short position on GameStop. And in my opinion, it's justified because revenues were decreasing quarter over quarter, year over year. I'm talking back here, like 2017, 2018, before this huge pop came. And basically, honestly, recently, in my opinion, this company might have seen like a decent revenue jump in the last quarter or two, and I feel it's just young traders at home who made a couple of quick bucks on GameStop And now, they have shares and they want it to go back to that 400 or 500 level, or perhaps even higher. So now they're taking like stock gains and they're going and giving these gains to a failing, not a failing, but a dying business, in my opinion, of these brick and mortar game stores. So they're basically like handing them revenue so that they can potentially keep eating earnings and keep making these young investors money. But again, to reiterate, this is a dying model. And anyone who disagrees with me, again, I'm not trying to bash anybody who might disagree with me, right? Because I'm sure we all have different viewpoints. But, these kind of businesses are starting to go under. We're starting to see it. And what was it? I think like Circuit City went out of business, if I recall. I don't even remember. You had like Blockbuster Video go out. And there's a reason. As Blockbuster was going out, Netflix was consistently hitting new all-time highs and hitting record revenues in quarters and year-over-year growth, 30, 40%, because they were taking all that business. And you look at, again, to talk about like Steam, a gaming platform software there, that's a multi-billion-dollar company right there, multi-billion-dollar platform. Now, obviously, granted, they're making money on a bunch of other things like skins and cases and keys and whatnot. There's a lot of other stuff to trade and buy on the Steam platform. But, Steam is probably generating more revenue from game purchases than GameStop potentially. So, in my eyes, like, there was a reason why it was down at $10 and most of the float was shorted. It's because the company is most likely starting to head down that going out of business route. Now I'm sure they'll maintain, a couple of locations that people will look to go to try some things out and whatnot. But, in the long term, I really don't see it. And I read an article, I think I saw like they're, talking about like coming out with like a GameStop crypto, and I just cringe every time I hear that, right? Because like all of these cryptos, in my opinion, really aren't backed by anything. And then you see like these horrible stories where it's like, oh yeah, this blah blah coin or whatever tanked 98.5% yesterday, and people lost their life savings. Everyone lost money hand over fist. Yeah, there's a reason. It's because it's backed by nothing. So now you're telling me that GameStop, a company where had a short interest on the float of like 116%, and they're on their way going out of business doing a Blockbuster Video. Now you're telling me they're making their own crypto, which is what? Backed by the business that was failing? It just doesn't add up to me. And, that's why, like, I know we could look at the numbers real quick, but like I said in my last couple of videos, sometimes you just got to take a big step back, and you just have to look at the overall economy of the sector and the industry, and look at the overall business model of GameStop, right? And when you buy a stock long term, when you really want to see growth, the companies that really grow and consistently beat revenues, if you really think about it, these are companies that have something proprietary that only they have, that only they can do. GameStop, if you think about it, is a store that sells video games. Right? Now, if GameStop hired their own like gaming development team and started putting out GameStop titles that were made by GameStop that you have to buy at GameStop, in my opinion, something like that, a strategy like that, would probably immediately turn this company around, especially if they make some decent titles and don't just pump them out. So, in a situation like that, you'll have some people who will go and play the new GameStop game, hypothetically we're talking, and then what happens? Word of mouth. All of a sudden, that good news spreads. These people go online, they're on Twitch, they're showing themselves playing the GameStop game, and then everybody's like, what? Where do I get the GameStop game? Oh, I have to go to GameStop. Okay, well, I'll go to GameStop, I'll buy the GameStop game, and then maybe another controller or a headset or something else that I might need in there that they also sell to me, and that's going to be even additional revenue on top of their now new proprietary gaming. But right now, you have a store that sells other people's games. And, I have to keep comparing it to Blockbuster. Blockbuster didn't do anything proprietary that I can think of off the top of my head. This was a brick and mortar store where you bought, Hollywood's videos that they made in their movies and their shows. And GameStop, you have a brick and mortar location that sells other people's games. Activision Blizzard, Take-Two Interactive, right? So we can go to GameStop and buy Grand Theft Auto, but GameStop is only making a small piece on that because the bulk of that sale is going to Take-Two Interactive, Rockstar Games. That makes Grand Theft Auto. GameStop has nothing to do with it. It's just a third-party extra location that sells it to you. So, just long-term, listen, I see 26, 27%. Markets are starting to run now after these, Fed minutes were released. But, with a situation like this, anytime I see huge spikes in GameStop, I just laugh. I really do. Because in my opinion, that whole short squeeze story on Reddit that all the young kids were jumping into, that's over. That happened already. And, look at this. This is from, January of 21 to today. Even just glancing at it, you can see slow and steady decline, right? Now, is it going to implode in the next week or two? Probably not. It's probably going to be a slow and steady bleed. And what's going to happen? Long term, it's probably going to go back to $10. Why? Because it's worth $10. And they're probably slowly going to start closing locations and going out of business. We're looking at an $8.5 billion market cap. They're losing over $5 a share here. And if we come down, we're seeing multiple misses on the EPS side, big miss here on the EPS side. And look, see, started out almost $8.5 billion back in 2019, down to $5 billion. That's like a 40% decrease, 30-40% drop in total revenue just in 2 years. Then 2022, it spikes up, $6 billion in revenue. But again, decent quarter, last quarter, $2.25 billion. But look at the earnings. The earnings loss is even wider than when they made half that a few quarters before that. So, I don't know what this company's doing. However, I know, they just got a new influx of capital here. If the company themselves have shares, obviously the shares are worth more than they were a few years ago. And I remember immediately when the stock popped to $400 or $500 a share, everybody was saying, oh, the board should do something with this money and, they should try to restructure the company. And I didn't really hear anything. And after all this time, they're coming out with their own crypto coin. I mean, I don't know. In my opinion, that's not the way to go. So GameStop, short term, I know we're not doing a huge analysis here. I'm just giving my overall opinion here. But short term, I mean, it could break up and there could be a pattern and potentially a short squeeze in the near future. And you could see a little bit more on the stock. But long term, I think it's just slowly going to bleed and slowly going to pull back to $10 and potentially go out of business. So, if you're a shareholder here on GameStop, just my 2 cents, I just want you to be careful moving forward. So once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. Moving forward, I wish everybody is successful. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. And, thanks for stopping by. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And, just like everyone says, if you like my content, please subscribe to the channel. Really helps me out. But listen, simple logic and common sense sometimes trumps technical and even fundamental analysis. So thanks for stopping by. You guys have a good day.